Hey guys, and welcome to episode number 52 of Limitless Studios TV. As always, check out our forum at limitless-studios.com. Click on the forum link. We've got over 180 something members there, and there's tons of posts. There's like 50 posts a day.
Yeah.
We've got a classified section there, so if you've got something to sell and you've got it posted up on eBay, or you want to do some sort of a Craigslist or direct sell, you can post it up in our classified section there. Instrument recording and all that is still there. So this week we have the big guitar recording video that we've been talking about for the past couple weeks.
Yep.
It's going to be fairly long, so sit back and enjoy. And the first thing we're going to talk about is a little equipment.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing we should talk about is the equipment needed for a recording guitar. So one thing you're going to need, we're going to talk about the miking. So we're not going to talk about software instruments or things like that. We may end up doing another video on that for guitar. But first thing you're going to need is a nice guitar amp. If you have something like a Roland Cube practice amp, you're probably not going to want to mic that. So make sure you get some kind of tube amp, or even some solid state amps sound pretty good for distorted tones as well. The next thing you're going to need is a decent guitar. Don't try to run like a first act guitar through a Mesa Boogie amp or something, because it's not going to sound very good. So at least have some kind of, like, I don't know, probably $400, $500 mid-range guitar at least. Also have tight guitar tracks or tight guitar player. So if you have a crappy player, it's not going to sound that great, obviously. And then you also need a simple interface and a mic. We're using the SM57 right here. We've talked about it before and shown it several times before. It's a pretty positive, or pretty popular mic for recording distorted guitars. There's some other ones like the Sennheiser MD421 if you're higher budget, and then I think it's a Sennheiser E609 or E9061, something like that. Those are other mics you can use as well. Dynamic mics usually are better for close miking a guitar amp than condenser mics.
Ribbon mics also work well for close miking if they can handle the decibel levels. Some ribbon mics can't handle the high dBs.
Yeah, and you'll probably want to use a pop filter so that you don't mess with the ribbon inside of the mic.
You can screw ribbon mics up, so be careful with them if you have
too much air pressure. All right, so I guess we're going to talk about what we're running the signal chain through. We're going to be showing you sound clips later of these different mic positions and things we're going to talk about. So the first thing is, for the sake of consistency of the guitar tracks, we are doing all these guitar tracks by reamping. So we recorded all the DI tracks, which is just the clean, raw track of the guitar, through a DI box here. That's the Countryman Type 85 active DI box. We use that for all of our DI tracks. And then we ran those DI tracks back through this Radial Engineering Pro RMP reamp box. If you don't know what reamping is, or if you don't know how to do it, check out our I think it was like episode 33 or something is our reamping
we did a
video.
full reamping video. Link in the sidebar for that.
And then I guess that's it for the reamping portion of the signal chain.
Yep. And then also for tone, or actually tightening up of the tone, because for these we're running into his single rectifier, recto-verb, and it tends to have a loose bottom end.
Yeah, it's a rectifier.
So this is a Ibanez TS7 tube screamer, and it works very well as a overdrive pedal. It's not a distortion pedal, it's an overdrive. It tightens up your tone, and it also can add smooth gain. It has an extremely smooth distortion. If you have like a low gain amp, all tube, like some sort of a vintage something, this can actually add some gain on top of that, and it'll actually sound good. You don't want to run a distortion pedal on top of a distorted guitar or amp.
Yeah, that tends to get some nasty sounding stuff.
It has to be an overdrive. The circuitry is different between an overdrive pedal and a distortion pedal, so keep that in mind. Also, this has two modes. It has the TS9, which is modeled after the TS9 Tube Screamer. Then it has a hot mode, which is like an extremely high gain, which we found doesn't sound that great.
No.
And these are pretty cheap. What they run, like, they're like $50 or so.
Actually, I think it was $40.
Yeah, so they're fairly inexpensive.
Uh-huh.
And this is a Boss NS2 noise suppressor. We are running the amp at extremely high volumes because, you know, your higher volume of your amp, you usually find that sweet spot, and you're going to have noise. And so also in the signal chain, you want to put some sort of a noise. You don't have to, but it'll save you some cutting at the end. You want to put a noise suppressor in that chain as well. So that's that.
Yeah, and that's one of the noise suppressor. Really, any noise suppressor will work.
Mm-hmm.
Another good one is the ISP decimator.
Yes.
I think it's a little bit more expensive, but it probably works a tad bit better. And I guess we'll put links to all of these products in the sidebar.
Yes.
From Z Sounds. All right, so what's next here?
We're going to talk a little bit about speakers.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a little picture up here.
Yeah.
About the speaker terminology that we're going to be talking about when we tell you about these mic positions.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be labeled on the picture. And the thing in the center is the dust cap.
Yes.
And the outside around it is the cone. So we're going to talk about those when we tell you about the mic positions that we used.
Yep. And more about speakers and speaker cabs and things like that. If you're running a amp head, you're going to want to make sure that you match the impedance of the head to the speaker cab. If you do not, you can, from what I understand and have read on Gear Sluts and all kinds of different forums that they know what they're talking about, basically you can run a 8 ohm. This is an example. If you have an 8 ohm head, you're going out the 8 ohm out, you can run that at 16 ohms or 8 ohms, but you cannot run that, or 16, 8, or 4, but you can't run it at 32 or 2 because that'll damage your amp. One step left or one step up or down will change your tone. It's going to change your tone. You run it at a higher or lower, it's going to be hotter or cooler tubes. So you match your impedance, it's going to give you the best tone. You run it at a higher impedance, you're going to make your tubes run hotter, which could decrease the life of your tubes theoretically, but it's not going to damage your circuitry of your amp. Mm-hmm. And if you run it at a cooler temperature, you're not going to get as much of a tone because your tubes aren't running as hot and you're not getting the full tone out of your power section of your amp. Obviously solid state, none of that what I just said applies. You still have to, you want to match the impedance of the solid state.
Yeah, solid states are different.
Yeah.
I think if you run the solid state at a lower impedance, it could actually damage the amp.
Yeah, from what I've read, solid state you want to match the impedance.
Yeah,
just to be safe.
But if you can, try to match them all the time, really.
Yeah. So
that's going to give you your best tone.
Yeah. So in our case, we were running out of, for most of these clips, we were running out of the
single rectifier.
Yep, and an 8 ohm, out the 8 ohm into my Harley Benton V30 cab, into the, and we have the switch on mono because it is a stereo cab. You want to switch it to mono. That gives you the 120, the full 120 watts at 8 ohms.
Yeah.
And that is wired in parallel, as I said in the review last week. So if you switch it to stereo on the back of that cab, it becomes
one speaker.
Yeah, you have left and right, and you plug. So if you have a 16 ohm amp, you could run one speaker at 16 ohms at 60 watts. And they are 60 watt speakers. I don't know how many comments we got last week about people saying
vintage 30s
that vintage 30s were 30 watts.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah, they're not. They're 60 watts.
Which, for whatever reason, I have no idea.
Yeah, but you can look on wherever, just type in vintage 30 into Z Sounds, and you can see the specs. The Celestion vintage 30s are 60 watts.
Yep.
I mean, you can get them in 8 ohms and 16 ohms. You might be able to get them higher and lower, but I'm not sure. Yeah, because the speaker cabinet that we were using was wired in parallel. And so when you switch that to stereo, it becomes 2 separate speaker cabinets basically in one box. But we were using the 8 ohm mono and running out the 8 ohm
output of the single rectifier.
Yep, to match the impedance to get the best tone. And
like we said, we were recording at a pretty high volume, so try to find the sweet spot of your amplifier. Turn it up as loud as you can get it, and wherever it sounds the best, leave it there.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's pretty much all there is to
usually
that.
It's around halfway, maybe a little over.
Yeah, if you get it too high, it's gonna like be majorly compressed, and it's gonna sound like muddy and things like that. So just find wherever it sounds best.
Yeah, but if you have it at too low a volume, you're not going to get the depth, and the power section is not going to be saturated enough.
And it's going to be fizzy.
Yep.
And all kinds of other problems.
And I guess we could explain some processing: high pass, low pass filters.
Yeah, all these tracks that you're going to hear have both a high pass and low pass filter. No other EQ other than that. A high pass filter just cuts off the low end. Probably going to be using this at around 60 hertz or so to get rid of the rumble that you don't need in a full mix. And then the low pass filter cuts off the high end, which the mic picks up as really high frequencies. We're probably going to set that around 12 kilohertz or so. And that's just going to roll off at those frequencies. Yep.
So also about our mic positions, before we tell you, we are not going to do any off-axis mic positions. All of our mic positions are going to be on-axis.
Yeah, we prefer the sound of the on-axis.
So if you hand me that mic, basically all of on-axis is going to be, your mic is going to be perpendicular to the grill of your cab. Yeah. So if my hand is the cab, this is directly perpendicular with the grill of the cab. So that's on-axis. Off-axis is obviously this is going to be tilted some way or another.
Angled some way. Doesn't really matter which way.
But all of these mic positions that we're going to be showing you today are going to be on-axis.
Yep.
But obviously you can experiment with all kinds of different things.
And you could also dual mic, one on-axis and one off-axis. We're not going to do any dual miking in this video because you should be able to get a great sound out of just one single mic. So if you have two mics, you can try it, but you're going to run into phase issues and things
that's what
like
I was about to say. You've got to be careful of phase. Actually, I was looking on Little Lab's website the other day, and they actually make a phase sweeper. So it's this little box, and it has a 180 degrees phase switch, so you can switch. Most preamps have just a button that
phase
turns.
inverse.
Yeah, it's 0 degrees and 180 degrees. But this little box allows you to sweep between 0 and 180 degrees, so you can find your perfect phase position.
Yeah, they also have some plugins like that too.
Yeah. The only problem, the hardware thing is extremely expensive. It's like $800.
Yeah.
So so the dual miking stuff, if you have really good ears, you can try that. So I think that's going to be
it for talking about things.
Yeah, we need to stop talking and you can start hearing positions.
So this first mic position is going to be, we're going to show you basically pretty common mic positions. So the first one is just going to be a center of the dust cap. So go ahead and take a listen to that.
Yeah, also one more thing before you take a listen to that. I know you're all getting all excited and you're like, crap. These are all quad tracked.
I forgot about that.
So we're going to show you in the very last two clips, we're going to show you a double tracked and then also a different speaker.
Yeah, we're going to show you the different, how a different cabinet and a different speaker changes your guitar sound.
Yes. So all of these, except for the one we tell you, are going to be quad tracked.
Yeah.
So here's mic position 1, the center of the dust cap. All right, so as you can hear there, the center of the dust cap can be slightly harsh. Yeah. Obviously you haven't heard any comparisons yet, but we found that this you smack it right in the center of the dust cap, it's going to be pretty harsh. It doesn't sound, I mean, you could probably work with it in a mix, but we found that that's not the best position.
Yeah, and also if you tweak the amp a little bit more, you could probably get a little less harsh.
Yeah, they also sell these little blockers that you can put. You were telling me about the other day that you can take your grill off.
What they call them.
And it blocks the high frequencies of the center of the dust cap.
Something common of V30s.
So this next mic position is going to be at the edge of the dust cap. As you can see in this picture that we're going to show you here in a second, the mic is going to be still on the dust cap, but not directly in the center. The edge of the mic is going to be touching the very edge of the cone. So let's go ahead and take a listen to that.
Alright, so as you heard in the second mic position there, it's going to be a little darker than the first position. Not as much fizz and not as much harsh frequencies. That would probably be good blend with the next position we're going to show you here, and that's mic position 3. In the picture you'll see it's the mic halfway on the dust cap and halfway off of the dust cap, so it's going to be in between the dust cap and the cone. If that makes any sense, you'll see the picture here in a minute. So
this happens to be our favorite mic position usually.
Yeah, this is the one that we always pretty much use as a starting point. So here we go, take a listen to that.
So as you can hear there, that is our favorite, sort of position, and it is less harsh than the first two, and we find that it has a balance between the first two and this last one that you're going to hear,
which is really dark.
Yeah, which is going to be position 4, which happens to be completely off of the dust cap, but the left edge of the mic is still going to be touching the very edge of the dust cap, as you'll see in the picture that we show you of the speaker.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a little dark compared to the other ones, but let's go ahead and take a listen to mic position 4.
So as you heard, that was a very dark clip there. What we're going to show you next here is a comparison, or well, not really a comparison, but well, I guess it kind of is a comparison because you just heard all V30s. Now we're going to show you the Celestion C90 Black Shadow speaker that's in my single rectifier combo over there. So this one has a kind of a harsh frequency there that I can never get rid of, so go ahead and take a listen to that, I guess.
Alright, so as you can hear there is that weird frequency that he was talking about.
I think it's around like 8 kilohertz or something around there.
Yeah. But that was also at mic position 3, so you can hear the comparison between mic position 3 and that C90.
But I can tell you that the V30s have a nice, I guess it's from the closed back cab where it's got the nice low end, but it's not muddy, whereas with the C90, if you turn up the bass too much, it gets a little muddy, and you can't really get rid of it. And then it's also got that high frequency that the V30s don't have. So.
Yeah. All right, so for this last clip, before our little outro that we're going to do, this is going to be mic position 3 again, and it's only going to be double track. So all of the clips so far that you've heard have all been quad tracked, because we found quad tracking gives you a much better sound. So this is going to be position 3 double tracked with V30s. So go ahead and take a listen to that.
Alright, so as you've heard all the mic positions that we were wanting to show you, let you listen to examples of. They were all quite different, as you could tell.
We were actually surprised at how different they were sounding, because we weren't moving the mic much at all.
We weren't moving like half an inch or so.
Yeah.
And there was quite a bit difference in the tones. The first and the second position we were really surprised at. We really didn't think there was going to be much difference at all, but there was actually quite a big difference. So it's kind of interesting to do things like that. So I guess we're going to end this here.
Yep, this ending is going to be kind of cool.
Yep,
so
we're going to have
we had 6 positions, well 4 positions and 6 different clips.
Yep.
And so we're going to do a little mix here a little pre-mix with bass and drum backing track. That
the guitar tones.
Yeah, with all 6 guitar tones in a row, so you can really hear a comparison of them in the mix. And you can decide for yourself which one you would like better, and you can start at that position.
And they're all in order as we talked about them. So
all in order as the video has them laid out. So I think that's gonna do it for us talking.
Yep.
So we're gonna end episode 52, our big guitar recording video, with some 6 clips of a full mix of all of our guitar tones that we have. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and we will see you next week in another Limitless Studios episode.